Hello, good evening. Oh, what a day it's been. Been a bit overcast today, so I've been sort of lying on my bed watching videos. Oh, how boring, he said. Not usual, but I didn't even manage to get my walk in, which I like to do each day, even though my hair's growing now. But moving on, as we do. Have you noticed how many Americans here who used to have channels have disappeared? They seem to have vanished. In fact, there's a lot more English people doing videos. Watching one of my favorites, Tyke farming in the Philippines or something like that. English guy, and he built a piggery and sari store, doing quite well it seems, and also now building a house. But also, I've been watching, I'll call him a young one. I'm being kind now. Got to be kind to you Americans sometimes. But it appears that over the last few weeks, or actually over the last month or so, I suppose, there's been a large number of events happening in his life. He's married to a Filipino, I believe, for about 3 years. I think his name is Dex. Anyway, you'll probably know who I mean. He's a bit of a beefy guy into bodybuilding and the old American image of tough guy. But he's been having a bit of a hard time with his family, and the extended family more have been under what one might call unusual confrontations. But initially, when I used to watch his videos, I used to think, my goodness, is he stupid or something? Does he not realize you can't go around like that? You can't do videos talking about members of your family in that way. But he's managed to allegedly get himself into a little bit of legal bother here, and he's engaging a lawyer to act for him. That's what I get the impression of. I might be wrong, and I'll stand corrected. But he's gone off to America now, so it seems though he'd left his wife here. Apparently, they have a successful laundromat business and a piggery. Amazing. Wouldn't think that either one was particularly successful unless you happen to be selling your own pigs in the market and also doing a lot of washing for maybe students in the area or bed sitting kind of customers. Certainly not. I wouldn't think in the Philippines you make a lot of money as a laundry because most people do it themselves. And he made a rather strange comment, which again goes to the concept that I keep trying to get over to so many Americans that have never been here, who have made their mind up to come here and live and maybe retire, find a lady. He's suggesting that you can find your Filipino partner by just doing a regular walk every day to a certain, on your normal walk round. Talking to everybody that you can, because once you start talking, they'll start talking back to you. Oh yes, that is so true. Not. But never mind, that's his experience. As he keeps saying, it's his own experience. And mine is also mine. I've been here 10 years, so I think I've got a little bit more on knowledge of the Philippines than he has. But the thing that you've got to be very careful with videos is that you don't put people off coming here, but you also provide them with reasonable, sane information. It's not all about getting an SRRV visa versus a 13A visa. It's not all about living in a condo. It's not all about building homes and not building homes. Because it's the psyche that I'm talking about, the thought patterns that go through the minds of so many inexperienced, living in a bubble Americans that come over here who don't do their homework, that don't listen to the right people. And who is the right people after all? You know, the ones that know will always say to you that you come here, you do a scout around, you take the effort to get the feel of the place. You're not going to do it in 2 weeks. You're not going to do it in a month. You're not even going to do it in 3 months. You've got to be here at least 6 months to even get a feel of the place. Yes, they've got to get used to chickens. Yes, they've got to get used to music playing, karaoke bars, blackouts or brownouts, they call them here. The fact that you can't get something, sorry, out of stock. Those sorts of things can irritate not just Americans, but anybody who's been brought up in the West, who's been spoiled, who's had it all so easy with the infrastructure. But those comments like Filipino ladies who live in the city, who become Americanized. Sorry? Is there a new word been created here now? Americanized? I think what he means is westernized. They're getting used to the Western culture through the news media, through things like TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, but not Americanized. My goodness, I know you own the world in many cases, or you think you do. You are the most powerful in the world. Really, I think you might look to China as well and realize that they're just about as powerful as you are, and maybe even the Russians. No matter what happens, there's a lot of superpowers around here. The one with the biggest mouth is always the Americans. And I suppose in many ways, the Western countries do listen to America because it has allies. China has allies. Russia has allies. All of these countries have their own little allies, and a lot of them are not on good terms with America. So I think we all have to remember that you can puff up your feathers and pretend that you're the toughest guys on the planet. But ultimately, are you? Look at Vietnam. Defeated by the Vietnamese. Really, you know, with all the technology you had, they beat you. And they beat the Australians and the English that took part there. You know, dreadful loss of life on the Western side. But the native Vietnamese had the upper hand, didn't they? So just remember, it wasn't a Vietnamese helicopter leaving with people desperately wanting to leave Hanoi. You know, it was actually Americans leaving the last minute. So, and you also then remember Afghanistan, that dreadful escape that people were doing, hanging on to aeroplanes, people desperate to get out of the Taliban. You know, I don't think America necessarily has got all the answers. It sure has got some. And I think that Trump is doing his best to try and bring some more peace to the world. Some of you, of course, will say he's an idiot, and some will maybe agree with me. But the point is, it's not about proving history. It's about the fact that when Americans travel, so many of them do it right. But my goodness, there's some around there that just don't get it. You can't say that girls in the city are more Americanized. Americanized? What are you talking about? Becoming Western. Western ideas, of course. But remember, the girls often come from the province. That's where they've come from. The ones that haven't left home, who've stayed in the compound or near their parents, where they were brought up in a small town, a small village. They don't go to the city because their life is there in the province. The ones that go to the city are the ones that want to get a better chance, maybe of finding a better job. But then a lot of them also follow, yes, Americans, Australians, English, who are there for different reasons, we might say. But, they don't wake up every morning saying, Mummy, I do pray that I'm going to meet a foreigner who's going to lift us all out of poverty. It's not like that, guys. Sorry, it might be part of the American dream that you're going to be a knight in shining armour on your white horse. But I'm sorry, they don't see you as that. They see you as a wallet. And if you're foolish enough to just hand it out to them, they're more than happy to take your money. And if you want to be careful, you take the effort to keep remembering to say that famous. It's even an American word. No. It's quite simple. No, dear. We don't have the money for that. Sorry, can't do that. Not enough budget. Why? Because it's your decision. It's not that you don't have the money. It's just that you have to learn to say no. And this guy Dex is talking about if you date a girl and within 30 minutes you've decided, nah, just dump her. Hit the road, Jack. Off you go. I suppose you could say that's good thinking, but the way he puts it, it sounds like he's a little simple. And honestly, he should keep those thoughts to himself, really. I do see, to give him some credit, he is changing his attitude over the last 3 or 4 months and starting to think with his head instead of the other bit. So, guys, if you do know him, maybe it's a good idea that you spend the time to tutor him in the ways of the Philippines, the ways of being a bit more respectful to our fellow hosts. That's what they are, because remember, we're guests. So, the word means a lot here. The word respect means a lot. What we need to remember is it's not the same as being respectful. Respect is something you give. Something you do is being respectful. And that way, if you are respectful, you're not going to be accused of being disrespectful, are you? So just think a little bit clearer. Think a little bit carefully. One of the reasons why a lot of these channels seem to be shutting down, I think, and that's only my opinion, it's quite simple that a lot of Filipinos are listening to our videos. And maybe the wives and girlfriends are listening too and thinking, is that really how he thinks? Does he think that about me? Well, I don't think that about my partner, because I can recognize a lot of these things before they become a hard task to deal with. Being on good terms is important, but also being understood by your partner that you don't intend any ill will, any bad vibes, any disrespect towards her family or anybody else. When you try and explain in the most simplest way of things that many of us foreigners, expats, Americans, Australians, English, or New Zealanders, or European, anybody from overseas, not from the Philippines, is that we all have a lot to learn. And we're not going to learn it in 5 minutes. We're not going to learn it in 6 months. We can be here 10 years and we're still learning every day. We're recognizing things that we saw in others. We're recognizing things in new people that we meet. That we also have to be careful that we don't be misunderstood. Just like Americans seem to misunderstand my words so often. And guys, we are different. English people are different from us Americans. It doesn't make us less of a person by calling you out or drawing attention to the fact. But the attitude that you have is to raise your voice and say, now, come on, man, come on, let's do it, let's do it. You know, you're confrontational in many ways, whereas English people are not confrontational. Sure, football hooligans are, but I don't think Americans could be called football hooligans. They're just a built-in challenging everybody and everything. But most people, with a little bit of, my mother used to say, American too, gumption. A lot of people have got gumption. And as a result, there are a lot of very good Americans here. But it's getting harder to find them. I wonder why. That's my thought for Sunday evening. And let's hope we all have a wonderful start to Holy Week coming up very shortly. Bye now.